Hi everyone, welcome back to our next live. And today we got our special guest that I mentioned, and it's Tara. Is it Cool? How do I pronounce your name? Sorry,
Tara Cull. Tara Cull.
Carl. I thought it was that way, but I wasn't. I
You can
wasn't
say
quite sure.
Tara Cool. I'm happy with cool.
Yeah, because you are cool, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I tell all my French students because they call me Tara Cool.
Yes, I love it. It kind of resonates really well, and people kind of get to like it immediately, I guess.
Well, yeah, I hope so.
Well, Bogdan and I invited Tara today because Tara, just about a year ago, right? You said you were just a normal general teacher, and with well, I'm going to actually let her explain her process through the journey of being a niche teacher for architects. So, without any further ado, Tara, just share your story if you don't mind, please.
Sure. Thanks for having me, Hannah and Bogdan. Very nice to be here and to share my story. So for me, I started off teaching. I moved to France 3 years ago. And of course, one of the things that you have to do, I guess, when you don't have any other possibility is you teach English. And I was teaching general English, but also I had this idea that I would teach kids English through art. So I always kind of had this idea that English should be practical and fun and more sort of targeted to specific needs. And my idea was that I would teach kids. And then the pandemic happened and it was kind of a bit difficult to do that face to face. And so I had to sort of shift my ideas. And my background is in landscape architecture. So my first degree was landscape architecture. I worked as a landscape architect for many years, and I decided, okay, I wanted to, because I wasn't working as a landscape architect in France and it was more difficult, I wanted to be able to somehow bring the two things that I was doing together. So I saw this opportunity to bring English learning and in architecture together. And also because having worked as a landscape architect, I worked with people who did speak English as a second language. And often I would speak to them about their challenges and their difficulties when I first started almost 15 years ago. And so it was always kind of in the back of my mind, but I never really had the opportunity to do it. It wasn't until I came to France, I realized how difficult it is to live when you don't speak the language. And I had to find something to do. And yeah, it was like it was something that I felt like I wanted to do, to explore and to see if it could work. And there's not a lot of people that do it as well. So there are some people that have tried to do it, I guess, and they still doing it. But I wanted to sort of pursue it as much as I could. So that took me to doing James's 21-day Teacher Entrepreneur Challenge. So I did that. And I really started to get traction with using LinkedIn and having conversations with people. And it took me about 4 months to get my first student. Yeah, so once I got that first student, and I had a lot of people sort of contacting me as well. But once I had that first student, I realized this was useful. And they were giving me a lot of feedback in terms of, yeah, this is what I need, this is what I want. And so I was able to validate my idea, and I'm continuing to validate my idea now. So yeah, that's essentially how I got started and where I am today. So as you said, I started about a year ago. I started in May 2020, and I've been doing it ever since.
Yes, thank you. So, as you guys can see, it does take some time to actually get your students, because did you do the organic way or did you do direct messaging?
So I did it organically. I know in the challenge, James asks you to message people and say, this is what I do and this is how I do it. But what I ended up doing was, so I did James's challenge, and then I did Helen Pritchard's 5-day Get Leads from LinkedIn challenge, which I don't think she's doing anymore.
She does. I did it.
She does. Okay, that's good. So I learned a lot from that in terms of how to change my LinkedIn profile, how to really up-level the language that I was using in my about section. I made my about section about my client, not about me. You know, I'm not worried about using LinkedIn for finding a job. I'm worried about using it to find people, to know what I do. So I was able to use LinkedIn in that way. And so it was all organic. I don't send direct messages to people. I have my LinkedIn set up so that everyone knows exactly what I do. And just from doing that and also speaking, I wasn't just speaking to people who were architects who spoke English as a second language. I was also speaking to people within the profession to tell them what I do, because inevitably they're going to be working with people who do speak English as a second language. And now what I find happens is I get referrals. And a lot of my clients now are referrals. They're not necessarily coming to me out of the blue. It's coming from all that work that I did to optimize my LinkedIn profile, to speak to people within the profession, have conversations with other teachers as well. So I'm getting recommendations from other teachers who have students come to them who might be architects, landscape architects, and I've either had a conversation with them or they know what I do, and they say, hey, actually, Tara might be better equipped to help you with this. And actually it works reciprocal ways. So what I would do, say somebody recommended me, I would say, who do you teach and how can I recommend somebody to you? Because I'm really passionate about this idea that we shouldn't be competing with each other. We should be helping each other.
Indeed,
yes. And I want to really sort of synthesize for our listeners and teachers in particular starting what Tara has mentioned. If you're just joining us, or maybe you were from the beginning, she got trained. So that's number one. You learn from someone who did already certain things to help you to bridge the gap. There's another myth about, do I have to have a qualification to do things? No, you give yourself permission to teach, to help, to solve problems for others. You don't have to have qualification certificates on papers. That's my perspective. I've been teaching for many years, but I know you don't have to have qualifications in order to do certain things. It helps, but it doesn't give you, sort of a better advantage. Absolutely, yeah. Because you have to follow your passion. Another thing that Tara has mentioned. So following your passion, training from getting trained or model people who did succeed in the area that you want to pursue, and then give yourself permission and just start doing things, take actions, because we're looking for a perfect moment all the time, myself included. I'm the biggest procrastinator on the planet, waiting for the perfect moment. But that perfect moment is when you just start. That's the beginning of the perfect moment.
It's interesting too what you're saying about not wanting to start because you feel like you don't have the qualifications. I work a lot with architects and I'm not an architect, but it's because I did the work in the beginning to understand more about the architects. I am a landscape architect, which is completely different to an architect, but I've worked with architects in the past. And so in the beginning, like what you're saying, I had to kind of overcome this idea that I'm not an architect. They're not going to think that I'm qualified to teach them. But at the end of the day, you're not necessarily teaching them. What you're doing is you're providing the space for them to be able to teach you or to speak about what they do. Of course, you don't necessarily have to know what they do because you're not teaching them how to be their job or how to do their niche, for example. You're giving them the space to be able to do that, and that's what's more important. It's not about, teaching them to be I'm not teaching my students to be architects. I'm teaching them how to communicate better within that domain.
Yes, it is all about the background knowledge that we have, isn't it? That we and whether we know the quickest way to solve somebody else's problem so they can reach their goal, isn't it? It's all about allowing somebody else to reach their aspiration and where they want to be the next stage of their lives. And I think that's what teachers should really realize, that the qualification might just be if you're going to work in a school or if you're teaching a subject matter, then it gives you the background knowledge because you were trained on that. But at the same time, you don't necessarily, when it comes to language, if you could be just a native speaker of the language, but if you have a teacher training, I would just say the training itself on how to actually be in the classroom and how to create programs, etc. These are the things that you probably would need to equip yourself with to effectively do the job, because once you've got that, you then pair up your knowledge or experience from your previous jobs, like you did, Tara, that you said you were a landscape designer, so now you also trained as an EFL teacher, so you put it all together and you created something that is unique. And that's what I was saying to teachers, that you don't necessarily need to be need to have a degree in something to teach that. It is all about. And I mean, for me, I mean, my degree is what in humanity studies, but it was a language path. So I did mine in relation to learning the language and teaching the language, and then I did my EFL TEFL qualification to help me with the process. So but because of the language, it has to be in a way that you need to have some sort of language training, because otherwise I think the quality of that teaching then kind of disappears, don't you think?
Yeah. I think there's 3 things that I think that I've learned in the last year. And it's exactly what you're saying. Like, you don't have to have a qualification in something, because essentially the best skill that I've used is listening and creating that space to be able to listen. And what your job is to do as a niche teacher is to, exactly as you say, take their problems and empower them with the tools to be able to solve their problems. You're not necessarily solving their problems, because you can't really solve their problems. It's them that has to do it, but it's the listening. And so, like, after every session, I will write down a story about what happened in the session, what were the challenges that they were having. And to give you an example, so even today, I had a session with a client, and we were talking about different concrete slabs, which I don't really know a lot about concrete slabs, but I said, you know what we're going to do next week? I'm going to find some diagrams and you're going to explain the different slabs to me. She was like, yeah, this is great. This is exactly what I need. So I don't know anything about slabs, but I know what she needs. She needs to be able to explain that, because she said that to me. So that comes from listening and knowing what her challenge is. And the other thing is empathy, because the thing about teaching as well is it's not separate from your personality. It's not learning a language, I should say, is not separate from your life. You know, people bring their life to their sessions with you. You know, often people are upset about the fact that they sat in a meeting and they didn't speak up, or somebody spoke poorly to them and they didn't know what to say. So you've got to have a lot of empathy for people's situations, and it's not just about the language. So if you're somebody who has the qualification and you're a good listener and you have empathy, you're already 70 or 80% there. So it's just that small extra bit, which is what I went into niche teaching thinking I had to be the expert. Like, I had to know everything. But actually what has helped me the most is that listening, the empathy, and knowing how to, exactly like what you said, Hannah, to join the language and the needs.
Yes, because sometimes the less we, as teachers, we worry what we're going to teach. But if we listen, like you said, we listen to our students, clients, they give us the ideas where they want to explore. And what we just need to do is just follow that thread. You've got lessons sorted. So even what we talk about is a niche program. It can be still, you can have some core modules in that, but at the same time, when it comes to tasks that are related within that, you can ask the student to bring their idea to bring to it, and help them achieve that goal outcome within that module by bringing their materials, their videos if they want to watch something and understand, etc. So it is quite an interesting thing that you said. It's about listening, and I totally agree with that.
Well, a lot of my materials are not. I would say that I have materials prepared and ready to go, but generally they will bring things to me, and so I don't necessarily do much planning because they will bring me something. So it might be, for example, I want to work on how I write emails. So they'll bring me some examples. We'll look at those examples. And then the next week I might give them something that's going to propel, like push them forward. But it's kind of a 50-50. You're almost they're bringing materials, you're bringing your ideas. It's not like, okay, today we're doing this, next week we're doing this. Not with everyone anyway. Some people are like, no, just tell me everything. Tell me what videos we're going to watch. Other people are like, no, I want to bring everything. So it just depends on the student.
So interesting point. And there's something that I want to also focus your attention on what we are talking about. The relationship that we build with our clients is far more important than us being in the position of teacher and then you listen because I have something to teach you about. And number two, we are becoming their guidance facilitator, not just a content provider that we may think that teachers should do because you're in the classroom, so you have to go through those steps into curriculum delivery, and then you focusing on not the person you teach, but the curriculum you want to deliver. So that's a very big difference when you do things online. Wouldn't you agree, Tara?
Yeah, totally agree. And also that whole idea about curriculum building. So when I first began, I did have a program and I had it set out, right? And I just realized actually it doesn't necessarily work the same. Even though I'm working within a niche, I still have small niches within my niche. And so you can kind of have that curriculum, but you've got to listen to what your clients' needs are. And so I guess for me, the making of the program was allowed me to be able to communicate to people what are the sorts of things we're going to do, and then making them see that. But yeah, sometimes I throw my plan out the window like 2 minutes before the session because I'm like, I don't think they're going to like this today. And I just ask them at the beginning, like, what do you feel like will be helping you the most today? Because sometimes a lot of my clients will come straight from work, they're stressed, they've had a long day, and you've got to sort of gauge the situation for what it is. Does that answer the question? Sorry, I forgot what the question was.
No, also the concept of a niche. Tell us, because for example, math teachers, they tend to say, I teach math, this is my qualification, look at me, hire me, I'm good. But why niching down is very important for online tutors, teachers nowadays to consider. If you can help them.
Yeah, firstly, we live in a saturated market and it's only going to get worse. It's only going to get worse and worse because you can see every day there's more platforms coming up. There's more online platforms for online courses coming up. It's, a lot of the studies that they saw for the boom in online teaching were before the pandemic. And now what's happening, you need to stand out from the crowd. You need to have a point of difference because if you're just doing the same thing as everyone else. And the thing is now, I'm even taking a lot of these principles that I've learnt in terms of niching and helping my students to see that, for example, there's no point learning everything because what's that going to do? That's not going to help you stand out. So I even try to tell them it's about your building a niche around your vocabulary building, for example, because you don't want to just go to a meeting and just be like, yep, I feel like I can do this. You actually want to survive. You want to stand out. You want to thrive, not survive. You want to put your 2 cents into the meeting and feel like you've really put a stamp in it. And it's exactly the same for niche teaching. When I tell people what I do, they're like, oh, I've never seen anyone that does that before. And then they'll tell somebody and more people will understand what I'm doing. And then, as I was saying before, I get referrals from teachers who are willing to give up their student because they can see that I'm doing it in a different way and that maybe it will have a benefit for their student. And I just feel like, niching has changed my philosophy. Every time I speak to somebody, like, I'm so happy that somebody like you exists. I just recently started a podcast as well, and it's amazing. I mean, I don't even have a big audience yet. I've only just started it. But I spoke to somebody this morning who was like, I listened to your podcast. Everything you said is exactly what I want. I'm so excited. Where can I sign up? I didn't even tell her like how much it cost, nothing. She just was excited because she knows what I stand for. She knows what working with me is like. She knows what result she's going to get as well. Like the result is structured, like not structured, but specific learning to her niche for her needs. And that's what you want. You want people to come to you excited to learn with you, not, I don't want to be here, or I have to be here. I don't like learning English. But so when you kind of find that real need for people, you help to solve their problems.
Yes, and then that's what Helen actually keeps saying, that they will come to you. That's the organic way, isn't it? They get to know you, like you, trust you, and they'll buy from you. It's not a process that you're gonna post an ad and you're gonna, I'm gonna have tons of people coming to my door. No, it doesn't work like this. And people need to resonate.
Repeat. You've got to talk about it all the time. Like you've got to put your message out there. It was really hard putting my stuff out there to begin with, because firstly, I was embarrassed about what other teachers would say, like, oh, you're always on LinkedIn, you're posting on LinkedIn all the time. Mm-hmm. Then I was embarrassed about what my old landscape architecture colleagues would say, like, oh my gosh, you're always on LinkedIn. And you know what? They do say that, but at the end of the day, I'm getting clients, I'm getting paid to do what I love. I actually cannot believe sometimes that people pay me what I get paid. I'm just like, this is insane. But the thing is that you've kind of got to overcome this thing that I'm not worthy, or the value that I bring is not enough. And that's what niche teaching will do, because you give somebody a result. When you're like showing up for lessons and there's nothing, you're just there to be there and you're learning and just having a fun old time learning English, there's no real outcome. And that's where the niche helps you to have an outcome, because you can focus on specific areas and you can take them from feeling like I can't speak up in a meeting to speaking up in a meeting, and then being like, yes, I made an impact today. And then you take them on to the next thing. Okay, I need to make my emails quicker. Let's work on your emails.
Indeed, yeah. Well, just for those who are joining us, we've got Tara Cull today, who is already a niche specialist for architects and landscape designers. And she's just been sharing the journey of how she's turned from a general teacher to a niche teacher. So if you want to learn how she's done it, just rewatch it from the beginning. But today we wanted to touch on how to create a free lead magnet. What do you think about the Tara? Because I wanted to also show Tara's website in a minute, but after she's explained, what did you create for your lead magnet and what was the importance of it for you?
Yeah. So when I first started, I started out with a different lead magnet to what I have now. So obviously, do you want me to explain what a lead magnet is, or?
You can do.
Okay. So a lead magnet is like a piece of content, free information that will allow you to get people's emails, to build an email list. And I've just recently realized how important it is to have an email list. When I first started, I started building an email list from the beginning, but my first lead magnet was sign up to my email and I'll send you vocabulary every month. And I realized that was such a big mistake, because it's a lot of work. And people say to me, oh, this is such great content. And I realize, oh, this is so much work. This is not sustainable for me, because it's going to get to a point where I don't have time. But I want to talk about what I do still. So one of my clients is, she works with architects, but she works as a marketer. So she helps architects to market their business. So I teach her English and she helps me with marketing. And so what she helped me to do was to create a lead magnet, which was an evaluation and a plan. So there's 5 questions in my evaluation, and people can download this if they want from my website just to see what it is. It's just enough information to help people understand what I do. And so they evaluate their level against certain criteria. So it might be like looking at their vocabulary, looking at their understanding of cultural differences, what is their pronunciation like, and then on top of that, it gives them tips that they could do to improve their vocabulary, to improve their understanding of cultural differences and things like that. So it's only like 3 pages, but it gives them enough information to know what I do. And then I have a series of emails. So I have a series of 6 emails that go over a period of 2 weeks, I think it is. And I share some of the examples of how they can improve, I guess, to try and get them to know more about what I do.
And excellent. Yes. This is very important for us online teachers, tutors starting, or if you want to ramp up your gig. There is an important step here. The lead magnet is a must, right? Because after all, if you have a beautiful message and you have no one to know that what you do is valuable, then no one will knock on your door. So you have to put yourself out there. You have to break away those myths, what other people would say, think, comment. It's their problem, in my perspective. We have to be focused on what our mission is, what I need to do, because at the end of the day, it is your dream. This is your passion to follow. Thank you very much for sharing, Tara.
Yeah, so this one, the one that you're seeing on the screen now, and I'm not against grammar, for sure. I just talk about how building vocabulary doesn't need to be about looking at materials that were made for language learning. So in this vocabulary email that I send to them, it's showing them examples of like practical examples that you might see in a client meeting, or like how do you use the conditional when you're talking to a client. So it's attaching practical vocabulary that's only specific to my niche. So this is the one that I was talking about, how this is what I did in the beginning, where I built this vocabulary email. It means I just have to keep doing it now. But actually, I do like doing it because it helps me with preparing my lessons. But the other lead magnet is if you take away vocabulary and then just put in the little address bar, if you put take action, you'll see my lead magnet.
Where does it say in home?
So when you go up to the address, you won't be able to get to it from my website. And this is another thing I'll explain about the lead magnet. So if you, at the top, you type / take action.
Oh, okay.
That's it. Yep. So what you'll notice on this landing page is there's nowhere else you can go. There's no menu. There's nothing else. The only thing that they can do on this page is put their email or their name and their email. And it's explaining. And so what I tend to do with this lead magnet is I have it on my website. So take me to the guide is the very first thing you see on my webpage. Also, I have it in my Instagram. I have it in my on my LinkedIn. It's like shared on my LinkedIn. And then also if I'm sending emails or if I'm in a lot of my podcast episodes now, I'm referring to this lead magnet as well. So it's only a one-page thing. All they can do is put their email, and I'm starting to build a list now, which is actually probably more aligned with what I do in my courses rather than just the vocabulary building. The vocabulary building has been good because what I'm working towards is a course for vocabulary building, so I can use that to then send an email. But I've been able to segregate my email list, I guess, so that I've got different people on different lists who have different needs, I guess.
So your lead magnet, does it help you to contact the clients individually to book the sessions because they're kind of telling you what the issue is and what kind of help they need? Is it what it does?
Sort of, like with the vocabulary email, because I know that what they're trying to do is build the vocabulary. From the beginning, I sort of had this idea that I would build a course around how to build your vocabulary, not here is the vocabulary, but how to. And so in that way, when that's ready to go, that's the email list that I'll send. I'll send it to. I'll say, I'm doing this. And actually today I sent that list an email saying, if you want to be part of my better course, you can apply to be part of my better course. But the other take action, I have segregated that so that they know sort of what's in my coaching program, the sorts of things that they might expect in a coaching program. So I could actually probably segregate it more in that little click button. In the beginning, I had architect, landscape architect, interior designer, teacher. I just haven't gotten around to changing it, but I probably will now that we've had this conversation. So I could segregate it more. Yeah, that's for sure.
Okay, wonderful. Well, thanks so much, Tara. Thank you for your time. I know you said you need to dash because you've got...
That's all right. I've actually pushed my client to another 15 minutes away, so it's okay.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, so as Tara mentioned, so it's having a lead magnet is absolutely essential. And when you're so for some of you could be just vocabulary building related to your niche, or what other lead magnets, Bogdan, would you recommend for teachers to have?
It could be a mini course, for example. You can create a series of videos. You can create an ebook. You can create a report, or maybe some tips for parents to deal with teenagers. Anything that is aligned with your niche is strongly recommended. So then it has like there's a harmony. There's nothing like you talking about A and then you're doing things B. There has to be some framework. You have to align everything with according to your niche, who is the client, the client image that you have, and your free magnet lead should be also talking about those points that your mission is all about. And I'm very happy that Tara was able to show you that live results, right? Like this is the living proof for those who are still waiting for, is it for me? Should I start it? Am I qualified enough? Do I have enough skills? Yes, you do. Give yourself permission and just start today. Learn.
Yes, exactly.
Because there's no better day than now, right? This is the
opportunity. I think the thing is too, like it's something that I think you have to keep up with consistently. Like I see a lot of teachers who go into a niche and they try it for 3 months and it doesn't work and they give up. And I don't think that's the right way of doing it, particularly if you're trying to teach students to be having a growth mindset. You try things. Like I've tried things and they didn't work. And then I just tried something else and then that worked better. So you have to keep at it. Like it's not something that's just going to happen overnight. Okay, I sent 100 requests on LinkedIn. Why hasn't anyone responded to me? Because it takes time to build authority and presence and people to understand, what you do. And as like Bogdan, when you were talking about lead magnets as well, another thing that I think is really important about lead magnets, or not even just lead magnets, but what you're doing as a niche is you really have to try and find something that is going to really speak to your audience, maybe even cause controversy even. Like, for example, one really great lead magnet that I've seen is one about how to write cover letters, but it's not how to write cover letters. It's like, what are the 4 mistakes you're making with writing cover letters? It can be something so simple like that. And if your program or you find that working with people on job interview practice is what you do mostly in your courses, or that's what you want to niche in, maybe you're niching in a particular area, or a particular subject, but you're actually wanting to do job interview practice, then your lead magnet will be something that's sort of introducing them to what you do, but not giving them all the answers. So that's where, like, a cover letter, what are the 4 mistakes you're making on a cover letter, is a good introduction, because they're going to be, actually, I need to write my cover letter. Oh, actually, no, I need someone to look at my cover letter. Oh, by the way, I probably need to help with the interview practice. So it's that little kind of taste, or like helping someone to get a win as well.
Yeah, it's like giving them a taster, or give like a frequently asked questions that a lot of the people from the niche may have. So you don't have to answer those questions to individuals. Just say, I've got all these things covered in that little thing. If you'd like to learn more, here it is. So our lead magnet is in the comments. We have compiled a little toolkit, for essential toolkit for teachers on how to start online, with little snippets of steps. So if you'd like to download that, feel free to do so, and you might learn something that it's new to yourselves. And also make sure, you guys, that you join our group, which details of it are also in the comments. So yes, I mean, it's lead magnet is really, when you're doing your market research, guys, you can actually look at the common questions that are being asked and create even could be 1-page answer sheet to those things. Like I don't know, vocabulary is one of them, but also like equipment that you would need for starting out as an online teacher. Or we also did another one on how to get paid if you've got students from China. So that's another one. So you created a list of things that are relevant to that, and you post that. So instead of answering the questions in the group all the time, you just put a link to the thing that you've already prepared, and it's there for you to use. So
well,
so
like
go on.
One thing you could do is, like, for example, if you're teaching in any niche within a business, like business English, like you could write 30 questions that you could ask in a meeting, and just give that as a lead magnet, because that's going to solve their problem of, I don't know what to say in a meeting, if that's the problem. One thing I did learn a lot from the student who was doing the marketing with me is not to give away too much information, because teachers tend to feel like, I need to give them everything, I need to tell them everything. But what that doesn't do is it doesn't build this idea that they need you, because that's what you're trying to do. You're not giving them all the answers, otherwise they're not going to come to you. You give them a little bit and go, I've got so much value from this. Imagine how much value I could get if I was having a lesson with her or him.
Exactly, yes.